All right, good day, my friends. I hope y'all are doing fantastic. Today, I have some special stuff prepared for you. I gave a talk last year and talked quite a bit about something that I call uncommon healthcare. And basically, what that is about improving hospitality in healthcare. When we look at something like this, it's always been crazy to me that we feel better and safer going to a restaurant or a hotel or getting a massage than we do going to our doctor. And most of y'all listening to this probably noticed some of this stuff where, doctors' offices have these very uncomfortable waiting rooms. You walk in, you see the person behind a window who greets you, sign in, please. Everything is done to make the doctor or the worker's jobs easier. And we don't pay attention to the patient experience or think about it hardly at all. And that needs to change. I think we've seen over the last few years that the safety and trust and respect of the healthcare system has waned quite a bit. And I think that's been a growing thing where people started to notice that, hey, I'm kind of getting treated like a number whenever I go. And then we have the big thing that, the entire healthcare system seemed like they didn't necessarily have our health in mind over these last few years. There seemed to be other things at play. And now we've got this system where very few people trust it. And I think some of that stems from the patient experience, what they experience whenever they come to a doctor's office can dramatically change not only their outcome, but the environment around the doctor's office and even how good the doctor's office does or the hospital financially. And so when we put all that stuff together, we start to see that this is a big problem in healthcare. If we look at right now where we're at in this world from a experience standpoint in healthcare, 52% of people say that they would rate their healthcare quality as subpar, meaning fair or poor. Think about that. Over half the people who get health care think that their care is fair or poor. And this is them going and trusting their health with somebody. That's an insane statistic to me. And I know that there's a lot that falls in there. We have different issues. We have different problems. And sometimes if we don't get the answer we want from our doctor, sometimes we think that the experience isn't as good. But I don't think that's what these numbers tell us. That's probably a small percentage of these numbers. What these numbers tell us is that we're getting kind of pushed off to the side. The patient experience is getting pushed off to the side for the numbers, for the convenience of the office or the doctors, and they think that they are putting better care first. They're like, you know what, we don't care about the experience. I've had a doctor tell me this. I don't care what the experience feels like to them. I want them to get the best level of care. And I'm like, okay, well, that's like a hotel saying, I don't care what the experience is. I want them to get the best sleep. Those are tied together. Those are both in the same thing, is that for you to get the best treatment and recovery, you have to have a great experience. For you to get the best, night's sleep at a hotel, you have to have a great experience. But there's something deeper than that. If we look at how people feel when we interact with them, people will never forget how we make them feel, good or bad, either one. I still remember going to a doctor's office. In high school, I had some heart issues, and we were trying to figure out what it was. And we went through test after test after test. And on one of these, we did like a couple of tests, and the cardiologist came in and basically said, it looks like your heart got sick. And I was like, well, what do I do? And he was like, well, we just basically kind of wait and see, and we can treat the symptoms. We'll put you on a beta blocker. And that was about it. And then he walked out. I felt like he didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to do. And so he just kind of didn't care at that point. I can't help. I don't know the answer. I don't know where to send this person. So I'm done. And I still remember how that made me feel as a high school person. I was like, is it because, I was like, is there something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong for me to get treated this way? And it really kind of frustrated me, and actually, I think probably stunted my recovery, because I didn't know where to go from there for quite a few years. I had trouble, that my first year of college with it. And it wasn't until I just kind of got fed up and started researching and taking things into my own hands. Whereas if this, doctor had just said, like, okay, what is this patient experiencing? How can I meet them in a place and help them in some way? We put this in there, but I love the Patch Adams quote, treat the disease, you win or you lose. But if you treat the person, you always win. And I think that's true. Like, he could have not known what to do with me. And there's times where, like, I have patients and I don't know what to do with them. But if we treat the person and we have the discussion and we make them feel heard, we make sure they feel respected, we make sure they're getting the information they want, they're getting the quality of communication they deserve, they're getting the physical comfort, the emotional support, and the access to care. I'm saying, hey, I don't know where it is, but here's some possibilities. I think that's the stuff that we're missing in healthcare. That is uncommon care. And unfortunately, it's very, very uncommon, which is where I came up with that. And so, when we look at something like this, if 52% of patients are feeling this way, if 52% of people are saying, you know what, my care is subpar poor, then we have a major epidemic. When people feel that way, a couple things happen. I immediately am defensive. I am immediately kind of feeling like I am stressed and I'm not safe if that's the environment that I'm getting healthcare in. Whenever we get healthcare that is like that, yep. Huh? I'm in the middle of recording, but if you got a minute, I've already paused it, so.
Okay. I have to give you this is your schedule. So I wanted to show you what I was doing for the supplements on Weebly. It's not letting me. I figured I could put it in a gallery, but it's not letting me like put individual pictures in with individual like links for it, unless you just like roll over it and like click it. But I was able to put them in Canva to make them all the same size.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just click on the picture, it should just like pop up with a link, but it's not like an actual like click here, if that makes any sense. Because if I don't put them in a gallery, then all the pictures are going to be like different sizes.
Yeah.
But I just tried to put a few in Canva. And since I can't put the link, like a separate text box link with it, I just put the name on the thing. So do you like how that looks?
Looks good.
So you can like, if you like click on it, like and click again, and click twice on it. Yeah, it's the It lets you just put the options like link it to something else. So I can link it to my body page still. But if that looks okay to you, it's more so do you want the name of it with it or not?
Explain that.
So with the name, it'll just be like this for each one. So it just says the same thing on the bottom. I'm not sure if you want to see the same thing twice.
Oh, like the name at the top?
Yeah. It won't let me put like an actual link with each picture, like a separate link, but the picture will be the link, is what I'm saying.
Right. The picture shows it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good start for right now.
Okay.
We could always do this and put a button under each one.
Yeah.
You know, that's like order curcumin, order astragalus, order vitamin K2.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I didn't know you could add a
You can delete that, but
okay.
I think if because so that's all one picture, right?
So these are 3 separate pictures.
Oh, okay.
It's just in a gallery, so it's like.
But so each one would take you to that
So-
its individual.
Yeah. To its
page.
So its own page with just the picture as the link.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
We need we'll add like little descriptions to it, but that's fine.
Okay.
Then yeah, if that's you may still want the button because people will see that and like not know
Yeah.
that it takes them to that. So like people have to be told order it here. So maybe you do both.
Okay.
But yeah, that's good. I think
Okay.
that works.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thanks. So what I'd like to go through is some of the stuff that we look at, and I hope this helps some people out there. We have quite a few practitioners that listen to this, but some of the things that I think can move the needle on patient experience and start to improve the quality that people are getting. And these aren't big things. They don't need to be big things to change hospitality in healthcare. It can be as simple as the power of like a really genuine and good welcome. You know, I can't tell you how many places I've walked in and I go into a doctor's office and you walk in and you could walk in and sit down and not a single person will tell you hello. And if you think about the opposite of that, like let's think about like a very high-end hotel. And you not only do you get greeted in a really good, when you get greeted by name before they even know you, they know who you are. They know what time you're coming. You've sent them, an ID or something, and they know who you are. And they greet you at the door and walk you in and have everything ready for you. They give you, if you've been to a resort or something, they give you a welcome drink. And it's comfortable and relaxing, and you immediately feel seen. The power of that to change your experience. If all we noticed was in healthcare practices, hospitals, doctors' offices, that genuine welcome. We are so glad that you're here. You're going to get the care that you deserve, and I'm glad you're taking action for it. And we know who you are. Like the respect and the communication that comes out of this genuine welcome is tremendous for people. I know that's what I like. If I walk in and I don't get acknowledged, I feel like you don't care. You don't care about me. You don't care that I'm here even. If you walked into a friend of yours house and they didn't acknowledge you, what would that make you feel? We don't think about those things in healthcare a lot of times. And so, just starting to get our staff to say, like a very warm and genuine welcome can be tremendous. And it really sets the tone for the feeling that somebody's going to have throughout their treatment. And this should start technically like the first time that we talk to somebody. This should start whenever we're basically on the phone with people. But the power of that welcome is dramatic. It can really change how somebody feels with it. If we go through some of the, I guess, data, if you will, the patients are 5 times more likely to select a practice that they had a positive experience at than one with a strong marketing presence. So, we can market all this stuff and we can say that we have the best things and blah, blah, blah. And, if you've heard of a doctor who's, got amazing ads, who's got really good, commercials or whatever, but then you don't have a lot of people who are talking about their experience there. I think that answers the question is, are they compensating for something? Are they overdoing it in some way? And that really, I think, can be reflective is like in the small things. What are the small things that can improve hospitality? So, that first one is if doctors and practices can start to change the welcome, can start to improve that welcome and that first sign of how do we feel, I think it can dramatically change how everyone feels about healthcare and the trust that we're creating. If we go a little bit deeper into this feeling that people get, there was a Vanguard Communications survey that found 96% of patient complaints centered around customer service, not quality of care. And so looking at something like that tells us the way that people feel about the care is equally, if not more important than the quality of the care. So, if we're looking at the amount of people who are complaining, and this goes back to kind of that what we were talking about at the beginning, that 52%, I think a lot of it is the experience. And this study kind of shows that they're not coming and saying the quality of care that I got was crap. They're saying the experience around the care was crap. That's what needs to be elevated. So the big kind of things that we want to start to build in the patient experience is initially confidence. I think connection is another big one that we'd like to touch on. And I used connotation. I know connotation refers to like the idea or feeling that a word gives us, but I think the idea or feeling that, our healthcare, like the thought of our healthcare gives us is the connotation that we assign to them. There's probably a better word for that. Somebody tell me what it is. So when we look at these things, when we look at the confidence that is instilled in patients, the better our experience, the better and more confident that patients feel, that you'll feel if you go to a doctor or if you give a patient this type of care. The more you're going to feel great improvements and you're going to have confidence in that care. When we don't have that confidence, because I think where we notice it is like how places pay attention to the small details. If I walk in somewhere and I see some, like the receptionist is on her phone, you're like, okay, well, they don't have a great, attention to detail in terms of their training. They haven't trained them to do this. And so immediately I've got like a little bit of a confidence drop. If I'm at a restaurant, I'm like, if that's the level of detail, how good is the food going to be? And then, we go back and the table's dirty at a restaurant and you're like, okay, well, their attention to detail gets even lower. I've got even less confidence that they don't do the small things right. And then now I am pre-framed in this thought that this is where they're at. So if any little thing is off, I'm going to be like, well, of course it was off. my brain is already geared to kind of look for that. So my confidence is low. So I'm going to notice the problems even more because the confidence is low. So it ends up being this kind of revolving wheel, this kind of like cycle where we're not building confidence in patient experiences. And there's so much research that tells us that. And that creates this cycle where we all are geared to look for the problems because we noticed it already. And this is why, for us, we talk all the time. We want to have the absolute cleanest environment, the absolute cleanest waiting room. We want to make sure that confidence is being built from the very first moment. And I really wish that we can elevate this throughout the healthcare kind of system, because it really does change someone's outcome. If I have confidence, as soon as I walk in, I'm greeted well, I get sat down, I'm in a treatment room with, a great layout and everything is beautiful. I'm like, this place knows what they're doing. And then, the doctor comes in and greets me and says, okay, I know what's going on with you. Tell me your side of it. Tell me your story. All right, now let's take a look. We're going to do some different things. And then they communicate with a really positive attitude. Here's what it is. Here's what it isn't. Here's how it's going to affect you based on what you told me. We're checking all those boxes for an experience: respect, information, communication, physical comfort, emotional support, access. And in those moments, I'm going to be like, well, of course he knew what was going on. Look how well they run this place. Look at their attention to detail. And I'm going to reinforce my confidence that I had before is going to also reinforce the confidence that I have in him. And, it's going to get that cycle going. It's going to get that positive loop going. And so I'm going to just feel better about what it is. And then you know what? I'm going to leave and I'm going to take more action than I wouldn't have taken if I did not feel confident in that situation. Like, maybe he knows, maybe not. We'll see what happens. Let's get this thing started. So those little small things can make a very big difference in building confidence. And I think it is your attention to detail that starts building confidence in others, in the experience that they have with healthcare. And so, I think also the way that we communicate about our want to improve builds confidence. If I go somewhere and I'm hearing talk about, we're doing this to improve blah, 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 the experience, so we're doing this to improve wait times, we're doing this to improve parking, anything like that, it also kind of starts to help build confidence, because I know they're continuing to get better. Nothing kind of turns me off more than someone saying, like, this is how I've always done it. That just is like, in such a fast-paced, evolving world that we have today with all these new advances. Somebody who says that, I'm like, I don't have a ton of confidence that you're continuing to learn and grow. And that will affect the confidence, which affects my experience, which affects my outcomes. So, if I trust somebody, I'm much more likely to follow through with my treatment plan. And if I'm communicated and my experience around the whole session builds my confidence, I'm going to have more trust to adhere to that treatment plan. And, we had a wonderful episode on the podcast a while back where we were talking about the kind of pain cycle and how much that fear feeds into your pain cycle. And, if I'm in an environment that's fearful and uncomfortable and stressful, not only does that zap my confidence like we've been talking about, but it increases the stress and anxiety response. When I am in that, I'm going to have more pain. We've all seen that. I'm going to have more tension. I'm going to have tighter muscles. I'm going to have higher blood pressure. Like, everything down there. I got to thinking about this the other day, that we think that white coat syndrome is an okay thing, that somebody going in and being afraid to be at the doctor spiking their blood pressure was okay. And I was like, is there more to this? You're going and you're a little bit worried. It's a kind of new environment. Is it just that? I'm like, well, I can go to a new environment at, a different, hotel, and my blood pressure doesn't spike. I can go meet a new massage therapist at a really nice, med spa, and they're asking me a lot of the similar questions that a doctor is, and I bet you my blood pressure is not spiked. So you look at that and you're like, this is a product of years and years and years of bad experience in a lot of ways. I'm sure there's some other times where there's other issues with it, but I bet you more times than not, this is a product of the experience that we've been okay with in healthcare, that zaps the confidence, that increases fear, stress, and anxiety, which lowers patient outcomes. So one of the things that I've talked a lot about and kind of spoke on this quite a bit was that the better the experience, the better patient outcomes are. So if we look at, two providers and they do the exact same thing, but one gives me more respect and talks to me, has a little more kind of authenticity and fun while they're talking to me. I have a better kind of communication with them. They give me the information in a way that I can retain it, not the way that they want to say it. They put me in a place where I'm very physically comfortable, and they talk to me a little bit about emotions. How are you dealing with this? How are your emotions? In that situation, you could have two people do the exact same procedure, and I guarantee you that every time, the one that gives me that experience treatment is going to win. They're going to have better outcomes. They're going to have better results in their surgeries, in their treatments, in their pain, in their healing, in stem cells. It doesn't matter what the procedure is. This is a very, very powerful thing. If our brain thinks that we have more confidence and this is a great thing that we're doing, it takes whatever that procedure is and makes it even better. And if we have low confidence in these things because of the bad experience, we're definitely going to, no matter what the treatment is, we're going to start to doubt. And our brain is going to start to kind of feed down the mechanism that, hey, not real sure if this is going to be real helpful to us. And that starts to kind of create the response that our body goes through. And so when we look at something like that, I think this is a very real thing that people need to pay attention to. This is not just, oh, that would be nice if we can have it. This really does affect how much better somebody gets and how we can change people's lives. The other part that's really important, or the second part, is connection. How much connection do we have? So when we talk about connection, I think it means different things in different settings. But at the end of the day, we have a person going to another person and asking for help. There's going to be some connection there. And sometimes that'll be much deeper, depending on I guess, consistency of that. If somebody's going somewhere, weekly, the connection should be much deeper. You have to get that deep. If I see my doctor once a year because I'm doing some functional medicine stuff, there's still a connection. I still want them to know who I am, what I do, what my hobbies are, what I like, what things make me afraid, what things make me angry or frustrated, certainly whenever it comes to health. So building that connection needs to happen. And I think a lot of that, again, comes from the ability of a practitioner or workers in a place to think about the patient or the other side of the experience, and have that kind of in the back of their mind whenever they're talking. It's very easy. I've seen doctors come in and say something about like, look, this shoulder looks really, really bad. I can't tell you how many patients have come in and say, oh, the doctor kept telling me this was the worst case he had seen. And I'm like, what kind of connection are you building with that patient? And what kind of confidence are you building in that patient if you keep telling them that their shoulder was the worst one that you had seen, or their hip was the worst one that you had seen? You don't know that, because we know with all the research in the world that the quality of the image does not reflect pain. This study has been done over and over and over again. The quality of what we see on an MRI or when we go into surgery does not reflect what that patient's pain is. So there's no reason for you to go through that and zap the confidence and the connection that you have with that patient by doing it. I think a lot of times the connection in these days, the electronic medical records do make this hard. So if you have a doctor and they're sitting there and they're filling out, a computer program while they're talking to you, you kind of feel like you're not getting the care, the attention, the respect. It goes back to what are all those kind of levels of experience, but it definitely decreases my connection for sure. So, what we try and do is not only build that connection into our activities, but we want to actually improve those with things. And this is simple stuff. How do you create connection with people? The stuff they like. I mean, think about how you do this with your friends. You remember their birthday. Great. I have a better connection with people who call me on my birthday and hey, I remember, happy birthday. We remember some details. If you call me on my birthday and you say, hey, I saw that you went and spoke at this thing last month. How was that? Now we've got an even better connection. So you remember something. And then you actively care about what I'm saying after. And then you kind of, respond in kind. That builds my connection. And those are things that the healthcare system as a whole could do very, very easily. Something as simple as remembering patients' birthdays is everything to me. I can't tell you how many patients I've had who said, yours was the only birthday card that I got. And in one part, it almost tugs on the heartstrings a little bit. But another part, you're like, I don't really get a whole lot of birthday cards in the mail. And so whenever I do, even if it's from somebody who sent it for a business, I still feel good. You're doing something good with that. And so it's definitely the small detail that builds my connection to you, to the kind of practitioner or whatever it might be, the hospital, the system, anything. I think I have to talk about, in terms of building connection or bettering connection, we have to talk about empathy. And to show empathy to people requires that we get into understanding and validating that patient or person's feelings and their emotions about that problem and their feelings. And if we really can, I try and teach empathy to a deeper degree whenever I'm talking to people who treat with pain. Is try and sit there for a moment and imagine what it would feel like to have the pain that the person is saying that they're feeling. I'll try and do this a lot because it gives a lot of insight of activities that they don't even know to tell me they're having problems with. If you kind of get into that mindset of what would it be like to have this, then you're well, then I would have trouble, getting on and off the toilet, doing this, doing that. You just cannot kind of tap into this deeper level of, I guess, validation of what's going on in there. And then you can help more. You can have those conversations about, does it cause problems with this if you feel that? Does that make you feel afraid of what's coming next? Does that make you, worry about what the future might be? all of those things improve when we have more empathy, or those things cause us to build better empathy, which improves our connection in the whole kind of patient experience. And if we continue with having better connections, I think it shows that how many people would improve their follow through if they trust their provider more. And the data around that is pretty clear. If we look at the data around people who say, I have a better connection, I trust my doctor more, the data says that people who say that are much less likely to go into any malpractice issues or suits. They're much less likely to switch healthcare providers. They're much more likely to follow through with provider recommendations. And I think all of those things would say that they have better outcomes. So just improving those connections. There was a study one time that said if doctors sat down when they talked to patients, patients thought that they had a better experience. And what is that doing? It's like you're sitting down to have a talk. That's connection. That's building connection. It's like we're sitting together. You're not standing at the door waiting to leave. And it improves that whole like hospitality system in healthcare. And I really want to see this change start to grow throughout all of healthcare. Another thing that I've talked about a lot is I think we should question some of our rules around all of these things, and then I'll get back to my last C in experience. We have confidence, connection, and connotation. But there's a lot of things that we do because we think that that's the rules. And then when we start looking at it and start trying to find out, is that actually the rules? It's kind of one of those things of, no, that's just the way it's always been done. So we accepted it. And this is one of the things that I would hope we start to improve and we start to change and question the things that we've done in the past. Question, is there a need to keep glass in between the receptionist and the waiting room? Is there a need to have treatment rooms set up a certain way? Or was that done from the patient's point of view to give them the best experience, or was that done from the practitioner point of view to give them the best experience? It's not about the practitioner. It's about the consumer. It's about the patient. That's the whole reason that we're doing it, is to get more people better. And if we can't do that, then why are we there in the first place? Why are we trying to set those things up in the first place? So I think it's definitely something that can change if we start questioning some of these things. The experience can get much better if we question, why are we doing this in the first place? Why are we making this decision like this? And if we were making the perfect experience for someone, how would we do it? And just start from that aspect in terms of like kind of changing the rules around it, if you want to call it that. So it's something that we talk about a lot. I'm like, people will tell me all the time whenever I'm speaking at something, they're like, well, that's how you have to do it. Who said you have to do it that way? Because I didn't say you had to do it that way. You can do it however you want. Obviously, there's some things that there's legal involved with, but the vast majority of these things can be altered to improve the patient experience on some level. So that's a very big thing. And I think that a little bit in terms of like connection, what we talk about a lot here is knowing who you are and be that on purpose. And when you go somewhere and they seem to have trouble connecting with you, and maybe they don't communicate really well, what they're about and who they are, then we have trouble connecting, and we don't draw the right people towards us, right? We don't draw the right types of patients towards us. And that makes it difficult because people are going to come find us and say, like, that's not really what I was looking for. That's not the connection. That's not the treatment. That's not what it is. And that's because they don't know who they are, and, they're not being that on purpose. And so in a lot of times, I think a healthcare facility should say, here's who we are. Here's what we stand for. Here's what that means in practice. And here's what that means about who we can help the best. And we try and do that a lot, being a specialty, rehab, regenerative therapy clinic. We're not the run of the mill, physical treatment, physical therapy, or rehab. And so if patients come in and they give that off, and we don't communicate to them that, hey, look, that's not who we are, then we're going to have trouble connecting with that patient. And we're both going to end up at the end of this probably not getting as much out of it as we would want. If you go to your doctor and you're like, hey, I just want to be healthy, and I want to kind of get some preventative testing, and I want to continue to improve my diet and health and longevity. And the doctor's like, I treat, viruses when you get, sick, the flu, anything like that. I'll run like a yearly blood test. And they don't communicate, hey, I do the kind of, basic old school medicine, and you're looking for new school functional medicine. And we don't communicate that really well with each other, then we're not going to connect well. And my outcomes as a patient are going to be dramatically lower because we don't have that connection, because the provider does not know who they are, and they're not communicating who they are on purpose. So I think connection is one that really kind of goes deeper for a lot of places, and should go deeper. The way that we make people feel seen and heard is the way that we're going to connect with them. So this is as simple as, playing, somebody's favorite song whenever they come in. We have a little bit of fun at our office. We dress up for holidays, and, we do birthday gifts and birthday hats and things like that. And if somebody comes in and they want the kind of stale, I want to go and I want to do exercises, I don't want to, have deeper connections and have this advanced type of treatment, then they're not going to fit in. They're going to see that right away. Oh, this is different than I thought. And that's just a question that providers should ask themselves. You should ask yourself, if you're a provider listening to this, like, what are the things that we can do that show who we are better? What are those activities that we can do that show who we are better? And if you do that more, you're going to get more patients who are drawn to that. And then those patients are going to get better outcomes because they're like, these are my people. This is my place. I'm glad to be here. I want to be here. And I'm actually like happy to come to treatment because this is it. This is my place and my people. So the third aspect, or the third C that I see, that's a lot of C's in one sentence, is connotation. How do we feel about the experience? And this goes deep because they're going to bring their baggage from other practitioners and experiences with them. And that's something that we have to see on the front end. If somebody comes in and you can tell that they've got some issues with trust, and they don't like, to take their shirt off or their clothes off, or they don't like to be touched or something, and you don't stop and say, hey, I see that you've got some reservations, or maybe you've thought that healthcare made you feel fearful or uncomfortable in the past. Let's talk about that a little bit. If you don't do that, I think the connotation they have continues. The feeling around the healthcare system as a whole, or their past personal experiences, continues to be in this kind of uncomfortable light, and it makes it tough for them to, I think, get the best care out of it. So if we're trying to build in those positive connotations, one thing that we're trying to do is certainly address the issues on the front end that may have caused a negative connotation in the back in the past. And this could be stuff as like, asking them for feedback about how they felt about the treatment. That's something that we want to know all the time from people. Did they feel good? Did they feel understood when they left? What was their thoughts and their feelings around it? So, is the environment kind of switching gears? Is it uncommon to get in that environment and change it up? I think that would be a big one. The impact of how somebody feels about their environment is very big. If I leave and I'm thinking about how great a place was, how great an experience was, I'm much more likely to tell people about it. I'm much more likely to have a positive experience that carries into the next days, that carries into my activities, that changes my confidence. And as my confidence changes, we already talked about that positive loop. I do more, I move more, I take action more, and then I'm really able to keep this whole kind of brain and body connection on a positive track if the way I feel about the interaction was good. There's simple things that we do with this, and some of that is to make sure we address when we see that somebody's not having a kind of great experience or good feelings, and make sure that we talk about that. I think to have some little ways of changing things whenever somebody is having those issues. We'll often do like a little stress pack or a bad day pack if somebody's having issues. Something that we do a lot of is to make sure that we get them out of that. And so, hey, look, here's some Epsom salt. Go have a soak tonight. Here's a candle. Light it up and sit there and let this help you unwind. And I think it just improves the kind of feeling that you have around the experience. I remember leaving a restaurant and they gave us kind of the little goodie bag to take with you. And it was, I think, yogurt and maybe like granola, but it was really, really good. And we had to fly out the next day. And so the next day we wake up, we're on our way to the airport, and we grab our little yogurt and granola. It was, perfect little thing on the way to the airport. And it just even reinforced, we're man, how good was that place? Still good the next day kind of situation. And so if we can do any of these little small things that help to improve the feeling that someone gets around their experience, improves on all levels, improves so many different things in terms of how often they come, how good of outcomes are they going to get, how much are they going to follow through. If we're talking to healthcare providers here, are they going to actually get out of their way and do the things you want them to do? So if there's extra stuff, I need you on these supplements, I need you doing these activities. If people don't have a good feeling around that and they don't have a good experience and it leads to some distrust, they're not going to take action on those things. They're okay, I'm not spending the money on that. I don't trust well enough for that. And that negatively will impact how much they can improve, how much they can come out of it. So, the little things matter a lot. Going back to the beginning of this where we're talking about confidence, I think the little things in each of these, the little things we do to build confidence, and that can be environment, that can be, communication, that can be cleanliness, that can be any of those things. The little things that matter in connection, names, knowing symptoms, knowing what's going on with somebody, knowing how it affects them in their life and what their personal goals are. The little things in connotation that really affect the experience could be as simple as, how we feel about, our, kind of paperwork, what we leave with, what the follow-up communication was over the next couple of days. All these little things make a very, very big difference in terms of outcomes for people. And if we're pushing towards improving healthcare for the country, if everyone is trying to get healthcare better, we're pushing towards excellence, right? We want people to get the best healthcare possible. Right now, we are failing miserably. 52% saying that their care is subpar is nowhere near pushing towards excellence. And so we need to start laying the groundwork to improve hospitality in healthcare and show people we do respect you. We do want to give you the best information and teach the stuff that we know. We do want to communicate better with you specifically. We want you to be comfortable and safe and relaxed. We want you to have the emotional support and the access to care that you need. And that creates the best patient experience that we can give. I think we would see quite the uptick in healthcare outcomes across the board if we start laying the foundations of improving hospitality in healthcare, and we start learning to offer uncommon care in healthcare to the point where hopefully some of this stuff becomes more and more prevalent. So thanks for listening to me ramble on about this. This is something that I care very, very deeply about. I think that if you're a practitioner listening to this, starting to find ways to think, how do I improve the patient experience, and how do I make people have a much better day whenever they come to my office, they come to my practice, and how does that impact their outcomes? How does that impact their care? It can be very little things. It can be very cheap things. It's the thought that matters in this, and it's the activity and the intention that matters a lot. So I hope that helps for all the practitioners out there. That's stuff that we use in our practice to definitely improve patient outcomes and patient care. So if you aren't a practitioner and you listen to this, you get a little view under the hood of kind of how we think about some of these things. So glad to share it, but share that with some of your practitioner friends, and hopefully we can get the ball rolling on improving hospitality and healthcare across the board, and everybody can start to climb to better health and better outcomes and better longevity from it. So that's all I got for you. I hope that makes some sense, and I hope you have a great day. Remember to do that one thing to get a little bit healthier today. Have a great day, everybody.